A lot of people seem to be disappointed with the iPhone 11 announcement. There wasn't a ton new on paper that seemed like revolutionary or innovative, as Apple likes to say. But when you actually start to use the phone, a lot of the features that Apple did talk about and announce are a bigger deal than you might think. When you just look at the phone, yes, you get the new flashy colors, you can see there's an extra camera, and it's like, okay, great, but there's really nothing new here until you actually dive in. The biggest thing Apple talked about was those cameras. Now on the iPhone 11, you have two instead of just the one from the iPhone XR. And instead of going with what they did on the XS and giving you a telephoto, they went the other way and gave you an ultra wide. Now this is nothing new, Android phones have had ultra wides for years, but where this differs is with Apple's processing. With the iPhone XS and XR, Apple introduced Smart HDR, and it was a big improvement over the previous year's camera system. But now they've taken up another notch. So they've made refinements and they've implemented better AI to give you better results. This isn't something they hadn't done before, but it's even better now. And in practice, you notice the difference. So for instance, if you're taking a picture of a person outside, it'll know that it's the sky behind you and that there's plants behind you, and it'll treat that differently to the person. It knows there's a person here, so it can treat the skin and the face differently than it will the background. And it does that for every single shot. And as a end user, you don't notice that it's doing any of this. You just take the shot and you're like, wow, I have a great photo. When you look at the cameras next to each other, the XR and the 11, you don't immediately notice a huge difference. But it's when you start to push the cameras, you can see that there are changes here. For instance, in low light. If you take a picture inside where it's not, dark, but it's not ideal perfect scenarios, you get much more detail on the iPhone 11 photos. The XR would kind of smooth everything out and try to do as much denoising as possible to give you a clean looking image, but not necessarily a detailed image. The iPhone 11 gives you both. And then the biggest improvement is when we go into low light. So now there's a night mode on the iPhone 11, and it's not something you have to activate and kind of pay attention to. The iPhone will just do it for you. It'll automatically go into night mode and take photos. And while I haven't exactly been able to test that just yet, the results we have seen are pretty impressive. Now, cameras aside, there are a few other features in this phone that add up to give you more. You get faster Face ID that works at more angles. You have better speakers that give you better spatial audio. So if you're watching media on your phone, you get a more immersive experience. Inside, you get the new A13 processor, which is an update to last year's already excellent A12. So you have even more headroom, and that'll last you years to come. With the A13 and a slightly bigger battery, you're getting better battery life. The iPhone XR from last year was already excellent, and now you're supposed to get an hour more. Inside, you have a new U1 chip, which at the moment doesn't really do much, but it uses ultra-wideband technology to give you spatial awareness of your phone. So the phone will know where it is in relation to other devices. The obvious use case for this is for finding a lost item. If you are able to exactly pinpoint where it is, that makes your life easier. But also for things like AirDrop. In iOS 13.1 coming up very soon, you'll be able to send files to a nearby person, and the iPhone will know that they're near you, so you can prioritize it. It's little things like this that add up. But then I think the biggest thing here is the price and the name. So Apple did something that they don't usually do. They cut the price of the iPhone. Now it starts at $699 instead of $749 of last year's iPhone XR. And it's $50. It might not sound like a huge deal, but it is. When someone walks into the store and they see that this new iPhone costs $699, it's a big difference in your mind from a $700 phone, even though the difference is not realistically that huge. But even on top of that, no longer is this the kind of budget, lower end phone that's called the XR. No, this is the iPhone 11. This is the new iPhone. So for people who walk in and just say, I want the new iPhone, this is the one they're going to get. It's a cheaper phone with better specs, excellent camera, gives you all the colors, but it is the new iPhone. So yes, the iPhone 11 doesn't have that many groundbreaking new features that we've never seen before. But for the features that it does have, they're going to be a big deal where it matters, when you actually use the phone.